Camels, dunes, the sun is scorching, so it seems that it can incinerate and not a soul around. It seems that the golden majestic dunes have always been here, but this is not so. What secrets does the Great Desert hide from mankind, and what is under its hot sands? What if North Africa is the largest desert on the planet? More recently, it was a flourishing land with numerous large cities, full-flowing rivers, and other benefits of civilization. Which makes no sense to develop in a resource-poor climate, just as the area has become deserted, where there are traces of a highly developed civilization. At every step, let's figure out what can surprise sugar. But, for example, a cemetery of whales, or rather their ancient ancestors carried factories, or, for example, the bones of one of the largest dinosaurs, a herbivorous sauropod. This giant, judging by the fossil, could reach 32 m in length and weigh up to 60 tons. And in 2018, under the endless desert sands, the bones of another previously unknown dinosaur, Monsieur with an afro, were discovered. All these cute little animals existed millions of years ago, but the desert itself is quite young compared to these bones. According to modern scientific ideas, the largest desert on the planet Sahara is 1,000 years old. To be more precise, according to the latest data, about 6,000, it was then that the arid desert was 6,000 years ago. An area of more than 9 million square kilometers was covered with a thick green carpet. A whole settlement lived here and domestic animals grazed peacefully. Where today there is practically nothing, in addition to the hot sand, there were also green meadows and lakes, and the precipitation was so plentiful that the Tom River took care of it. It grows, carrying its waters through the territory of the Green Sahara to the Atlantic Ocean. The river, with numerous tributaries, had a length of more than 500 kilometers and could be included in the list of the longest rivers in the world. In 2015, three-dimensional satellite images helped to discover the largest river. Thanks to them, scientists noticed the smooth edges of the ancient channels of the river, hidden under the modern desert, and in Central Africa there was a lake called Megachat. When in ancient times, this body of water was larger than the Caspian Sea and stretched almost 388,500 square kilometers across the entire Sahara. If the lake existed now, it would be the largest on the planet. The pictures published by The Nation clearly show how huge it was, but what if it was not 6,000 years ago? Because otherwise there was simply no need to depict full-flowing rivers and large cities in northern Africa literally a few centuries ago on medieval maps. Blooming Sahara cards. How did it happen that the deserts are 1,000 years old, and on the maps of the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries, this is a flourishing region with large cities? Moreover, these maps are considered historically reliable. Here is a map of Africa in 1688, superimposed on a modern satellite image of a scorched desert, that we see an abundance of cities and rivers. The coast is very densely populated, but there are many cities in the center of the desert, and Cairo is marked with the same icon on this map. That is, the cities inside the desert are large. Now we don't know anything about them. Well, here's another map dating back to 1575. Here everything is similar to the river of the lake of the city. Here is another map of 1500, or this map of 1502 here. In general, in the center of modern Sahara, a green forest with lush grass is depicted, and this map of Africa by Heinrich Banting in 1581 is a little smaller here, but the map itself is less detailed. This detailed map by the Dutch cartographer William Oblip dates from 1642. There are other cards, but it makes no sense to bring them. Everywhere is about the same picture, which roughly corresponds to at least the African savanna, and not at all the scorched desert that Sahara represents. Today, official science is curtsying towards these uncomfortable maps, noting a significant deviation from the normal conditions observed from the 16th to the 17th century. At this time, precipitation increased significantly along the tropical border of the desert itself and, possibly, in its northern regions. In the 19th century, climatic conditions returned to those that are similar to the current ones. However, such an explanation seems to have been created specifically to explain such anomalous maps with blooming sugars, because there are no earlier maps and it is impossible to verify whether this was really a short-term deviation from normal conditions or just the same sugar has always been so green, its modern appearance on geographical sugar cards. It occupies already at the very end of the 18th century and even at the beginning of the 19th, when the entire center of North Africa is already beginning to be depicted as covered with sand. By the way, on medieval maps there is no image of the Pyramid of Ancient Egypt. Strange, isn't it? You might think that they were not given importance, or maybe they have not yet been included in a project called World History? However, this is a topic for a separate issue. Now let's get back to sugar and look at this. If there are cities on the maps, then at least something should have been left of them. So there are the ruins of large ancient cities. Not uncommon in Sahara, what you can see in these photos is the ruins of the ancient city of Timgad in the north of the Sahara, and this is what remains of the ancient city of Garma. There are quite a few ruins of this kind, and their number and size confirm that there is no point in building such an urbanization in a resource-poor desert area, where camel caravans cross the dunes in search of the nearest oasis, and with a few villages, who built all these cities? On the tombstones, as in our modern cemeteries, you can see not the name crookedly scrawled with chisels, but you can say a photo about these people. Now let's talk in more detail. White people of the Sahara, let's take another look at this map. 1500 clearly visible, clearly drawn cities in the very center of modern Sahara. And what is interesting is that the rulers of these cities in appearance are more reminiscent of Europeans than the modern Arab population of the region. Can someone say that unfamiliar or distant lands were depicted so simply in a European manner? Well, like the way in China they like to portray Lenin. But in fact, this question is not so simple, and there are many tribes in the sugar desert, but the most famous are the proud Tuareg, a stern rider to the very eyes wrapped in a bandage, sitting on a camel or horse, a symbol of the great land of the sands. They are light-skinned, in their veins very little blood, representatives of the Negroid race. How did the Tuareg appear in sugar? The question for official science is unresolved. However, it is well known that the Tuaregs are a people of the Berber group, and the word itself comes from the Greek barbarian or Latin barbary. It turns out where the Berbers are the barbarian, and where the white race is the barbarians, there is no special secret here, but what is interesting is that they call themselves the wrong name of the Berbers. According to the research of linguists, it can come from the word red, and indeed, among them there are many red-haired white-skinned people with blue or light brown eyes. For example, Miss Algiers 2013, the wife of King Mohammed of Jordan and the world-famous and beloved French singer Edith Piaf, she is Berber on her mother's side. Or, for example, Zinedine Zidane, known to many fans, is also in the national clothes of the Berbers a lot of red. The fact that the Matsi tribes are of the Caucasoid type is also confirmed by numerous genetic studies that have identified the so-called marker. Berber haplogroup YE1b1b, which is found not only in eastern, northern and southern Africa, but also in Europe and Western Asia. However, politically correct scientists are afraid to directly attribute the Berbers to the white race. They directly call them white Arabs. Unfortunately, Berber sources about their own history of culture have not been preserved, which, in general, is not surprising, given the number of conquerors who rolled over this ancient people in waves. Recent history has not passed either. By the side, for example, after the occupation of Libya by NATO troops, almost all museums and museum valuables in Libya were looted and destroyed. The ancient cities of Libya were bombed by the barbarians, colleague and modeling from the Magna, unique mosaics of ancient symbols that the sands of Libya had kept for hundreds of years were irretrievably destroyed. The same thing happened in Yugoslavia, and in Iraq, and in Libya they even managed to steal the oldest rock paintings. They were impregnated with a special chemical composition. The canvas was printed to the images that were glued to it. The Eye of the Sahara, perhaps the most unusual miracle of the Sahara and one of the main mysteries of the planet, is located in Mauritania. This unique geological formation, clearly visible even from space, is called the Eye of the Sahara or the Rikat structure, and it is a series of huge concentric rings. It has a diameter of about 50 kilometers. The object gained worldwide fame after it was discovered in 1965 from the Gemini 4 manned spacecraft. Since then, scientists have been looking for answers to the main question: what is the nature of this structure? If this is the place where an ancient meteorite fell, then where is the crater itself and why are traces of impact not found? If this is the mouth of an extinct volcano, then why is there no volcanic rocks at all? Alternative researchers cite such facts. In this area, the rocky terrain is melted down as after an explosion of enormous power. Look at this top layer of burnt stones. They are also a layer of light stone. In other photos, the stones on the upper side are melted, while the lower ones have a light shade, which clearly indicates powerful radiation in all spectra that came from one direction. Approximate correspondence of this place with the old maps of the holding city, but with such power, it is not entirely logical to talk about individual cities. And that is why the terminology of modern military for the formation, similar in size to the funnel, requires an explosion, which can be approximately estimated at 200,250 megatons of TNT. For comparison, during the explosion of the King of the Bomb in 1961, this 50 megaton multiprocess was launched, in which the power increased to 58 megatons. That is, thermonuclear fusion began to involve the matter of the surrounding space. A most dangerous chain reaction began, as a result of which the air itself began to burn, and no one knows why then the process stopped. It was like this: at first the warhead was mounted with a capacity of 100 megatons. But at the last moment it was dismantled and converted to 50 megatons. Perhaps precisely because they were afraid of a multi-effect, which, nevertheless, happened anyway. And now imagine that a similar process of burning out part of the atmosphere occurred exactly when a funnel appeared, simply the result of natural biological processes. It's just a round structure that the wind blew, and in general there are no sugar secrets at all. After all, so what do you think about this? It's time to go down in the commentary and find out the opinion of experts. See you friends, don't miss the very issue that we are already preparing especially for you.